should I be podcasting? Because we are. That's something we already have in the plan and have done before. I just kind of wanted to get your guys' perspectives on how we're going to be doing it. For now, it's going to be my wife's show. Got it. Now it's completely silent, which is also kind of weird. All right. So now I feel like I'm talking to myself. So, so anyway, she has had in the past a successful podcast. We started it a few years ago, ran it for a couple of years, pretty much a show a week is kind of what we were averaging, especially in the beginning. Built a pretty good following, felt it was very effective. Life got in the way, got out of the habit, and are looking at getting back into it. And I guess looking at that, looking at format, looking at those kinds of things, I was just curious, do you guys even listen to podcasts? And if so, do you feel that it's an effective, relevant form to be using? And then if you do listen to podcasts, what do you listen to shows that's just one person talking? Do you listen to interview shows? Do you listen to, some of them are just completely random. Some of them are scripted. I guess I'm just looking to see what you guys use as far as, or consume as far as media goes. That's kind of the topic of the evening. So I guess first round is, do you guys use or listen to podcasts at all?
Cool. So, hey, Eric, I just unmuted myself. It's James here.
Yeah.
The way that I actually got into Bulletproof and became a Bulletproof coach, kind of began with listening to the Bulletproof podcast.
Okay.
So those are the types of podcasts that I consume, and I like them because they bring me new information that's happening in all the areas of biohacking that I'm into.
Okay.
So I like that kind of podcast where there's basically a guest expert. Those are like high value to me, and I generally listen to them while I'm cooking. The types of podcasts that I don't really enjoy, but it seems to be that there are a lot of them out there, are ones where it's like just a conversation between people shooting the shit about whatever, they are interested in.
Right.
Those drive me insane. So I like having a guest expert that I can learn new things from and take some actionable steps on from the podcast.
Okay. So you're really using it as an information source as opposed to an entertainment source.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Those drive me nuts too. Dude, we've been drinking all day and we're going to talk about stuff like, no,
right.
I don't need to listen to that. So what about you, Shane? Did you, I know that we share some of our podcast loves, but I'm curious your opinion on this.
Well, I actually got into it because of my brother. It's probably been about 5 years, but I started off listening to all the Kevin Smith podcasts, which ironically are all mostly people just sitting around shooting the shit. Some of his, because he has a whole network, and so some of his shows are interview shows. He's got like, he had one called Fat Man on Batman, which it is not around anymore. But it started off interviewing people that had something to do with the character, whether the comic book or the movie or something. And so that was like an interview show. And then he had others that were just him and his buddies telling stories. But it reminded me of like my friends and I. But other than Kevin Smith, I don't listen to any podcasts like that. I only listen to his because I'm a fan of his, and he's funny and that kind of thing.
Right, he pulls it off.
I basically only listen. Right, I basically only listen to two kinds. I listen to all the the Bulletproof, the Primal, Blueprint, the Tim Ferriss, those guest expert shows that James talked about, because they teach me things. They're ways for me to improve and life hack and 10x my performance and all those things that I want to do. And then the other half are ones that are like serial scripted shows. So a lot of the American history type podcasts where they, recreate stories from World War II or something like that. But again, it's because I'm like learning something, and they are kind of like old school radio broadcasts, which I think are really cool. They have sound effects and they have music and they have voice casts, and it's like listening to a TV show kind of. You didn't ask this particular thing, but I found that if I have a really long podcast, like if Tim Ferriss does a 3-hour podcast, even if it's really good, it's kind of hard for me to listen to because it's so long.
Okay.
And then on the other hand, if I listen to something that's like 10 minutes, then I feel like even if I like it, it's still kind of a waste of time because it's like, I don't really get a lot out of it. It's just like, okay, well, that was fine and it's over.
Right.
So if you're thinking in terms of like a format, I think part of the format should be like, how are you going to do it? Is it going to be you interviewing someone? Is it going to be you and your wife like talking about a theme like her show is? But also it should be, within a range. Is it a 20-minute show? Is it an hour-long show? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Like, is it going to be you and a guest every time? Or is it going to be sometimes I have a guest, and if I don't have a guest, it's a Q&A from email, or it's, like, could it be 3 or 4 different things, or does it only have to be one format? Because I think those are all parts of what people like and don't like about podcasts.
Okay. Awesome. How about you, Ben? Do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of audio books. That's really what my thing is. If I'm listening to audio content, it has a tendency to be audiobooks. I have an Audible subscription, and I got about 75 books on it. I try to add between 4 and 8 books a month.
Okay.
And I'm in my car so much that, I've discovered I can pop a book in and I can listen to it at 2x speed, and I can listen to it in about half the time. The other thing that I've discovered is that listening to it at 2x speed forces me to focus, and it keeps me, I don't think I have ADHD, but I do have a tendency to be like squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'll be riding along and realize that like I listened to like 10 minutes and I don't remember any of it. So by running it at a hyper speed, so to speak, it helps me to focus and I get more out of it. The downside about that is the only time I really have to listen to it when I'm driving. So if I'm going to have if I have a note or something I want to think about, I either have to text it to myself or I just don't capture that note or thought, which is kind of frustrating. So,
right.
So you made, if I could ask you a couple of questions, you made several comments to me. You made several comments. I'd like to unpack them a little bit. The first one was, you said, we ran a podcast and it was successful. What's your definition, or what was your definition of success?
So for that show, the really only goal of it was to build an audience, to let people around the country know that my wife exists and she does what she does, which is sort of unique unless you're from San Francisco. Like, it's the only place in the world that she's gone that she says what she does and people go, oh, okay, great. Like, everyone else is like, what? So it was sort of a put her out there, let people hear her. She's, well, Shane, you've met her, you understand. So that the goal was to build an audience.
That's a great segue to the second question. Was, you said you built a following and or an audience. How many people did you have listening on a regular basis?
I think she was pushing 4,000 downloads on average for every show, kind of at the peak.
Okay.
So.
All right.
And it's, I mean, her show's a little.
I'm trying to remember what, there was one other thing you said. Go ahead.
No,
well, yeah, sure. So. It's 4,000 people she couldn't talk to otherwise. So.
Exactly.
So then there was something else that you said about how it went or whatever. I'm trying to remember what it was, but why don't we just take a step back, and you're talking about podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, are you literally talking about posting up to whatever Apple's SoundCloud or whatever the podcasting formal format is, or are you just talking about uploading audio files in general?
No, it was actual podcasting, like through iTunes, through Stitcher, through Google Play, through all those. So it's the actual podcast format. Yeah.
Did you find that one platform over another got more downloads, or were they all kind of evenly distributed across platforms, or what?
Not even close. Apple dominates. They kind of were the first ones to make it easy to listen to podcasts in high quality. So iTunes podcast, like it has its own app now. But it was like over 90% of the people I think that downloaded her show were using Apple, and everyone else, because Android, it was a real pain in the ass, and it was usually really low quality when you got them. So Android people didn't get into podcasting much. So yeah, there was a big difference. So
you said you're thinking about starting up a new podcast, but it's really focused on her business, not yours. So I guess my first question is, why does it have to be her business and not yours? Meaning, like, why can't you have a sub-segment inside of hers or something? What does that mean?
Well, this is actually kind of new. We actually just had this discussion today, actually. Hopefully won't offend anybody. I don't think I will, but what we call a come to Jesus talk today, about everything we're doing, and and sort of looked at it and realized that we were trying to each build something, and neither one of us was building very fast, and both of us were frustrated, and financially we need to do something different. So it was why don't I step back? I just, I'm picking up clients kind of through word of mouth more than anything else anyway. So I'm only going to do the clients that I kind of get through word of mouth, and I'm basically going to become her employee for a little while and do a lot of her back end stuff so that she can focus on content creation and that kind of stuff. Because she's been doing this longer. She has a pretty good size following already. And I think that she's at that point where if we do some stuff right, she's going to take off. And then I will have time to work on mine. It was my idea, and I was like, hey, we're putting energy in two different directions. Let's focus together and do it that way. So little bit of a shift. It doesn't really change anything I'm doing, really, because the stuff that we're talking about here, the marketing and finding clients and all that, is still appropriate because her business in that sense is similar to mine. So just a little different focus for me as far as what I'm working on. So that's what. Yeah.
So what are your goals? Have you guys established goals for what it is that you're doing, and how many platforms? What's your format, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So
Have you map that stuff out, or is this just a generic "let's go do this"?
No. The podcast, we've broken it down from what was successful before, what we want to do, and we have a pretty good idea of we have this is what we want to do, but as they say, no plan. What's Mike Tyson's coach say? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So we have a plan of what we want to do as far as format and such, but obviously it's flexible. But yeah, we have that part kind of figured out. But go ahead, James.
Are you able to translate how many that audience? Were you able to translate what the audience size means in terms of paying clients? Like for every 1,000 downloads, you got a paying customer. For every 2,200 downloads, do you have any idea what that number is? Yeah,
we not off the top of my head, and to be honest, it was mostly through her affiliate stuff. Like, it was pretty interesting because we made our own commercials in the show, so it wasn't other people's doing stuff, but it was the companies we have affiliates with. And we could watch the shows that were really popular. There were a lot of downloads. Those affiliate numbers went up on those weeks. So there was a pretty straight across the board. What's changed now, and this I think will answer your question as far as goals. What's changed now is she's offering events of her own, like a retreat and women's weekends and things like that we will now be advertising her events as opposed to other people's stuff. So that's the switch.
So I know James has a comment, but I'm going somewhere. So if you guys can be a little bit patient, with me. Give me a few minutes. So how familiar are you, or have you ever heard of the concept of basically generating one piece of content and then spinning it out to, anywhere from, let's say, 20 to 150 platforms? And do you know what that means when I say that?
I believe so. That's actually one of the things we talked about in our talk today, is simplifying. And a big part of that is what you just said. She actually, what we want to do is pick a topic each month, and then all the blog posts that she does, her, probably 2 podcasts a month that she does, are all on the same topic. So it's basically you get the information together for that one topic, and then you use it in a variety of different ways. It is what we were planning on doing.
Do you have a content creation roadmap? Do you have have you built out what's going to happen in a 30-day period of time? Let's say if you're going to run a month cycle, you know what that looks like in terms of what you have to have done by different days of the month? Yes. So
roughly, I will say roughly, we have that figured out.
Okay. So I'll just go with your yes.
Okay.
And here's what I'm getting at, and this is what I think is important for all of us to consider. Generating content takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of focus. And when you put stuff out, you want to make sure that it's high quality. Like, you don't want to just throw crap up against the wall and hope it sticks for the sake of throwing crap up against the wall and hoping that it sticks, right? So, if it was me, and I haven't, I'm not a good patient of my own diagnosis, but I mean, I've mapped this out previously. I've just never had the time to implement it, right?
Okay.
So basically, what I've previously mapped out is a 90-day content creation roadmap, if you will, and basically, in the first 30 days, you're planning out what's going to happen in the last 30 days, meaning that you're always 60 days in front of your content creation because you need time to allow your brain and people that you talk to germinate, otherwise percolate. You don't want to just throw up content and go like, gee, I think that's great. I hope it's good, right?
Right.
So basically, if you think about like when you're launching an event, right? So there's always a ramp up, right? Well, you can't promote content 2 months down the road if you don't know what you're producing. So the whole concept is that the content that I'm planning now, I'm not actually going to create for 60 days because there's important stuff that happens in the creation process, in my opinion.
Okay.
In the second 30 days, you're basically, and some of this stuff could be done in a weekly format. It doesn't have to be done in a month, but some people don't have a lot of time. They're doing other stuff, so it may take them a month as opposed to a week. But in the second phase, that's your research, that's your segment creation, the storyboarding in Shane's world, all that sort of stuff. But then everything is aimed at, I would call it day, like you're aimed at day 60. Your content creation should be, and we're just thinking in 30-day segments, right? So all of your content creation for that 60 to 90-day window where you're launching, all that content creation needs to be between days 60 and 65 or 60 and 70. I don't know if you guys realize this, but as of like 3 years ago, over 50% of internet consumption was video, not audio. Podcasting is great, but that's for a specific segment of the population, and you're automatically ruling out a significant amount of people that might pick up your content, like say through Facebook or one of the other social media platforms. So when I talk about generate one piece of content and then spin it out to multiple platforms, what I'm talking about is when you generate your content, it should be in video because, and then Shane could probably talk about this after I'm done talking. My thinking is that you really want to break it down. Let's say if you're going to do 60-minute episodes, you should break that up into a minimum of 4, possibly as many as 8 sections, so that what you're going to do is each one of those sections is like a piece of content. Then you strip out the audio from that video, and now you have audio content that you don't have to go back and recreate. Then you take that audio and you feed it into something like Dragon Naturally Speaking, or you run Dragon Naturally Speaking while you're generating the video. And now you've also written your blog while you've generated your video. So now you have written content, audio content, and video content. Got it. So what happens is, because content creation is so complex, right? It soaks up a lot of energy. What you need to do is, in order to spin your message out, it helps you be more consistent in your message, because people are gonna be like, oh, I've heard that, right? Or I've seen that. So, you've got to make sure that your titles are keyword rich and all that sort of thing. What a lot of people don't realize is that, like, for example, on YouTube, post a video to YouTube, YouTube will create or can create closed captioning. Well, actually, Facebook ads will do that. But you can actually upload the text to the video, which makes the video content searchable. What's the largest search engine on the planet? Google. What's the second largest search engine on the planet? YouTube. What gets posted